please stop using China as a pawn in your political games.
So a lot of people have been asking me what I think about Mamdani's win in New York City.
Let's talk about how China promotes its government officials, because many of you curious about it in here. For this part, most of people outside China have no idea how it actually works.
Do you think China is still a socialist country?
The easy answer is that China is in a very important process to build socialism. Socialism is not like a light switch. You have the lights off, it's capitalism. You put the lights on, it's socialism. Socialism is always a protracted process, a difficult process. You have to change the hearts and minds of people. You have to build the infrastructure in a very complicated way. And in China, certainly, because of the role of the Communist Party of China, which actually prevents the creation of a capitalist class. In China, you have capitalists, but you don't have a capitalist class. They are not allowed to create their media. They are not allowed to control political parties.
China's 25 years away from their goal of achieving full socialism per their economic plans. And now I've been to China 3 times. The last time I was there was in 2007. And the difference that we see today versus when I was there is fucking staggering. They have gone 60 years into the future over the last 20 years. Meanwhile, in the United States, the only thing we've built is potholes and a lot of billionaires, because our profits are not being reinvested into our country like they are in China. They are being invested into the bank accounts of the already extremely wealthy. Can you imagine, based on their current trajectory, where they will be in 25 years? Now, can you imagine where the United States will be based on our current trajectory in 25 years? It seems to me one of these economic systems is working for their people and the other one is working for like 6 fucking assholes.
Socialism sucks. Socialism ruins countries. You scream from your 1-bedroom apartment that you can't afford while your back's been hurting for the last 2 years and you've been living off ibuprofen because the doctor's too expensive and your manager is making 50 cents more than you, but Big Boss is on vacation in Turks and Caicos and the forests are burning and oil's being poured into the ocean and the president is posting AI videos of himself pooping on his own citizens. Right, socialism is the problem.
MAGA and Republicans are so weird. They're so punch drunk and crazy that the propaganda is too deep. They can't get out. They would rather a Republican hurt them than a Democrat help them. Now they're crying over the mayor of New York. And this man is a socialist saying he wants to tax a little bit more so he can help the city, help the average person, get the city back in working order so the money isn't just funneling up to the rich. And these people are going crazy. Oh my God, the rich people are going to leave. Why are you guys so obsessed with something you will never be? The system is designed for you to never catch them. It has to be that way. For a few to be rich, many has to be poor. It has to work that way. If you gave everybody $1 billion right now, then Elon Musk suddenly isn't worth as much. But everybody else is. He would never allow that to happen. That doesn't even make any sense. Would you be his maid if you had $1 billion in the bank? Nope. Would you be his chauffeur? Nope. Would you work for his companies? Nope. You have $1 billion. He couldn't tell you anything. He doesn't. No rich person wants everyone else to be rich. The poorer you are, the more desperate you are, the more desperate you are to take really bad jobs. Or not even necessarily desperate, but people who need extra income because the job they have isn't paying them enough to live. Oh, billionaires, they give us jobs. They do not give you jobs. They exploit you. They exploit your time and give you peanuts to live on. And then the government has to supplement that. You guys are crazy.
I think that there's about to be a massive sabotage campaign against Mamdani. And if you know anything about socialism, you know that anytime people try it, whether in the US or outside the US, they always try to sabotage the wealthy people, the politicians that they control. They try to essentially collapse that country so that they can basically say, see, look, socialism doesn't work. Don't try it. Now, with Mamdani, not only is he a socialist, but he's also Muslim. He's also spoken out against Zionism. And if you think about how Zionism is in the world today, their support is at an all-time low. Their entire government would basically be getting arrested if it wasn't for the U.S. support. And support in the U.S. is at an all-time low. And so I think that Mamdani in New York will more or less be the hill that they try to die on. And so if they have any chance of creating like the greater Israel or even just continuing to exist, they more or less have to make an example out of Mamdani. They need to absolutely destroy him so that nobody else tries to be like him. And they need an example so they can say, see, this is what happens whenever you elect Muslims. This is why you shouldn't have socialists. Now, the U.S. currently has the most billionaires in the world. I think it's about like 900 billionaires. And I think about a sixth of them are Jewish. And a lot of those Jewish billionaires are Zionists. So you got people like Larry Ellison, who just took over TikTok. He's worth like $500 billion, just about like 400 billion. And you have people like Miriam Adelson, who spent like $100 million on Trump's election. And you got people like Bill Ackman, who is supporting Andrew Cuomo. And they're going to be using a lot of their money and a lot of their resources to more or less sabotage anything that Mamdani tries to do. And so Mamdani's in his early 30s, and he probably needs support because being the mayor of New York is already hard enough. But instead, he's going to have essentially all of the entire political system, because like 90%, I think it's like 89 of our 100 senators have taken money from AIPAC. He's going to have like the entire political system coming after him. Trump's already going after him. He's going to have wealthy people in charge of like hedge funds, because a lot of them are Zionists. They're going to be trying to get as much money outside of New York as possible. The media, they're going to be trying to make sure that anybody who does invest in New York loses all their money so that nobody invests in New York. And so what you're about to see is New York City will get sacrificed to the god of capitalism and Zionism. And so if Mamdani were to succeed, a lot of people would start doing exactly what he's doing, which is speaking out against Israel, which is what a lot of people want to do. But the problem is Mamdani's just going to have no support. Even Democrats, even someone like Obama, who's dealt with the same sabotage, he won't even say Mamdani's name. And so the odds of Mamdani succeeding whenever he has that much against him are more or less zero. There's going to be so much money being spent. You might have like up to like $1 trillion being spent specifically to try to destroy New York City so they can make an example out of him. And so what will determine whether or not Mamdani is successful is really whether or not people in the U.S. are aware of the fact that Zionism is responsible, not Islam. And so more or less we have to learn from the previous disaster that happened to New York City, and we have to learn our lessons from that and know who to blame. And so let me know what you think in the comments, and for more, like and subscribe.
I kind of wish socialist countries would stop trying to even negotiate with the U.S. because whenever the U.S. or independent people look into whatever's going on with the socialist country, they find no foul play just for the U.S. to say, nah, fuck that anyways. For instance, with North Korea, with the Otto Warmbier situation, when Otto Warmbier got sent back to the U.S. because North Korea couldn't treat him because they're sanctioned to death, examiners didn't find any signs of foul play or him getting beaten up or tortured or anything, right? When Iran was following the nuclear deal that they signed under Obama, they were following everything. They weren't developing nuclear weapons, and they didn't have nuclear weapons. And Venezuela had a bunch of international observers. They couldn't find anything funny with the election. Of course, now Western aligned whoever's organizations were still like, something's not right here. Did they say what was not right? No, their election was more secure than ours in America. And yet, regardless of that, of course, America is still gonna say, no, you're corrupt. We need to bring democracy. You're fucking up. You're not doing the right thing. So I wish they would just say, fuck the U.S. and just do whatever they want, which sometimes they do. By the way, I mean anti-imperialist countries, not socialist. I know Iran's not socialist.
Let's talk about how China promotes its government officials, because many of you curious about it in here. For this part, most of people outside China have no idea how it actually works. In China, officials don't rise because they are popular. They rise because they are proven they can handle real works. It's a system built on performance, not personality. Everyone starts small, usually at a township or county level. You deal with floods, local budget, housing issues, even angry citizens. It's not glamorous, but it's where you learn how to govern. If you do well, you move up. If you fail, you're out. Simple. No one gets promoted for giving good speeches or trending online. The path is very slow, but it is structured. Township, county, city, province. Then, if you earn it, central government. At every step, your work gets evaluated. Did you meet the goals? Did you keep your area stable? Did you solve the problem or make them worse? Even young graduates from top university have to go through this. They are sent to rural towns, sometimes far from home, to learn leadership by doing it. No press coverage, no camera, just result. People want to see result. And that is the thing. The system filters people. It does not reward charisma. It rewards competence. Now, of course, that's compared to the United States. In America, the political ladder is not built on result. It's built on visibility. You raise money, you build a brand, you dominate the headline, then suddenly you are a leader. But ask yourself, what happens when the lights go off? Who is actually know how to govern in the background? As far as I know, the government still in shutdown. No one is governed right now. Of course, all this is a very general picture. There are nuances and there are controversies. And we can always talk in the comment section. Usually videos like this comes with full article with more context. And it's on my Substack, link in bio, or visit grumpychineseguy.com. Thank you for all the following and the subscriptions. You guys keep me going. And thank you. Take care.
The reason they're asking is that I am a socialist, but I am a Marxist-Leninist. I am not the same kind of socialist that Mamdani says he is. He says he is a democratic socialist, and if you're an American, that's most similar to what we've heard Bernie Sanders or AOC say they are in the past. And this has brought up a lot of questions, in particular for some people, about socialism and elections. So I'm going to take a few minutes to explain. There's a common misconception that people with left-wing politics do not participate in elections. And while this is certainly true of some people, it's not true of everybody with left-wing politics. I myself am a Marxist-Leninist, which means that I engage in electoral politics the same way that Lenin suggested we do. Lenin's writing on electoral politics can best be found in a text called Left-Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder in the chapter called Do We Participate in Bourgeois Elections? And what Lenin basically said is this: our job as socialists is to meet the masses where they are. And the reality is that most of the time the masses are only paying attention to politics during an election. So if you fail to show up in an election, you are failing to meet the masses where they are politically when they are in a position to want to be able to learn. Additionally, Lenin has said that getting socialists elected into positions of power within a capitalist system actually can be an important tool in showing the masses the limitations of those systems. If somebody, for example, is saying, hey, I think capitalism is really bad and I want to change all these things, and they get elected into a position of power within a capitalist political framework, they are able to then show the masses, see all the things I wanted to do, and my hands were tied by the system in these ways. If we want to accomplish these things, the system has to change. Lenin points to specific experiences that they have had where they have shown this to be a successful technique. So, Marxist-Leninists like myself are not opposed to participating in elections. However, the general rule is that we must show up unapologetically as ourselves, and we must not capitulate to the capitalist ruling class in any way. This means very often that socialists, communists will want to run their own politicians with their own political parties that are not beholden to special interests of the capitalist ruling class. So, what do you do with somebody who calls himself a democratic socialist running in a capitalist political party of the ruling class, like the Democratic Party? Well, Marx himself wrote about these types of socialists, either calling them social democrats, bourgeois socialists, or democratic socialists, depending on how their tendencies manifest. And what Marx basically said is, look, if these are the kinds of people that we have interests aligned with, we are obviously going to work with them towards that common goal. However, we are going to make sure we do not compromise on our values or who we are. And if these people turn in service of the ruling class and start to attack those with further left-wing politics, people who actually want to undo capitalism completely, then of course we will cease to work with them. Now, the general rule amongst Marxist-Leninist circles is that people who run as democratic socialists or social democrats will usually end up betraying any left-wing political ideals they had in pursuit of appealing to the ruling class with power. The argument for this is that they need to make compromises in order to gain access to these spaces to try to get things done. But the critique of that understanding is, if you've compromised on all of your values to the extent that now there's nothing you're even able to get done, didn't you just become one of them? So what's the point in even having political power? And the examples in the United States we can best see of this have to do, I think, with AOC changing her position on Israel and Palestine over the course of her acquiring more political power. With Mamdani, we already see that he has also changed his position on Israel and Palestine, even just in the process of running for mayor. And where Democrats or more progressive Democrats or social democrats might say, well, he had to do that if he wanted to win, the Marxists will say, then what's the point of winning if you can't stick to your values and actually do the things you want to do? Now, this doesn't mean that social democrats or democratic socialists running for office contribute absolutely nothing to left-wing political movements. Indeed, for many people, these are great entry points for them to get politically activated and interested in politics in general. Many Marxist-Leninists started out as Bernie bros, getting inspired by Bernie Sanders' campaign, then initially seeing the limitations of that campaign in a framework of capitalism and asking, what comes next? Just like I'm sure many people will be inspired by Mamdani's campaign, then come to understand the limitations of what it can accomplish in a framework of capitalism and ask, what comes next for me? What we know for certain is that somebody like Mamdani gaining votes means that the working class is open to something that's a little different than business as usual from the Democrats. And they're not afraid of somebody with the word socialist in their name. That means that this is a great opportunity for Marxists to springboard off of and say, hey, if you liked that, you'll probably love full-blown communism. It's a little bit of a push, but I think we can get there.
China doesn't have one party, it has 13 political identities. Most people think China has only one political party. That's not true. There are 13 political identities. But first here doesn't mean most powerful. It's simply the official order of political identities, not a power ranking. Number one, the Communist Party of China, the ruling party with over 100 million members. Number two, probationary party members. Number three, members of the Communist Youth League. Then come 8 officially recognized non-communist parties, not opposition groups, but participants in what China calls multi-party cooperation under Communist Party leadership. Here they are in official order: the Revolutionary Committee of the Chinese Kuomintang, the China Democratic League, the China Democratic National Construction Association, the China Association for Promoting Democracy, the Chinese Peasants and Workers Democratic Party, the China Zhigong Party, also known as the China Public Interest Party, the 93 September 3 Society, and the Taiwan Democratic Self-Government League. Together, these 8 non-communist parties have around 1.2 million members, and their top leaders serve as vice chairs in China's National People's Congress and CPPCC. But here is something most people misunderstand. Being a delegate of the NPC or a member of the CPPCC is not a political identity. It's more like a political post or public role. People from all 13 identities can hold those positions if they are recognized for their achievements. After those come 2 final categories: non-party individuals and the masses. Most people confuse them, but they are very different. The masses are the billion-plus citizens who make up most of society. Non-party individuals are officially recognized people with independent social influence, a few thousand in a city like Shanghai, and one of them, a recognized non-party individual in Shanghai. Some democratic parties invited me to join, but I chose freedom because I don't like meetings. And who knows, if someday my followers on Instagram or TikTok surpassed 1 million and the achievement be recognized as a Chinese official, I could become a delegate or community member myself. I'm Yuan, unpacking China and the shifting world around it. Follow for honest takes on how people, ideas, and opportunities are moving in this new global era. Check my bio page for more. Thank you.